I'm a genius pianist, but I hide this fact and work as an incompetent part-timer in a music store. One day, the concert hosted by my beautiful boss was in jeopardy because of a power outage. When I stepped in and performed a stunning piece, the situation took an unexpected turn.
Hey, are you still not back?
How long are you going to keep us waiting?
The shout echoed through the pitch-black hall. I work part-time at a music store and was working today. It was a major event organized by the store, featuring a piano concert. But unfortunately, we were hit by a power outage, plunging the venue into complete darkness. After waiting for 20 minutes without being able to start, the frustrated and angry voices of the audience filled the air.
I'm absolutely fed up with waiting.
As some of the weary spectators started to leave their seats, a voice spoke up. "I'll do it." I went to the piano. I touched the piano in the darkness. The keys were difficult to see. There was no sheet music, but none of that mattered. I started hitting the keys. I played the piano sounds, making sure to check each sound one by one. My name is Harry, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a piano tuner. Well, technically I'm a part-timer at a music store. Some people find it odd that at my age I'm choosing to be a part-timer instead of a full-time employee. Still, the store manager, a generous soul, doesn't force me to change my position and lets me do what I like. One day, the manager introduced a new person to the staff. This music store was planning to significantly expand its space soon, and this person had come from another store to help manage the expansion and its operations thereafter.
Hello, I'm Alice. I'll be your superior, but you all know more about this store than I do. So, please teach me a lot.
The woman who greeted us at the morning assembly in a friendly yet confident manner was astonishingly beautiful. Her skin was healthily pale, and her short, black hair shone. Her facial features were sharp, and she looked more natural in a magazine or on television than in the music store. The other employees and part-timers were also overwhelmed, but when she became the topic of a conversation later, all we could say was she's beautiful. We were at a loss for words.
Harry, do you have a moment?
I had just started checking on the pianos when the manager called me over. Alice was standing next to him. It seemed like he was introducing her to everyone one by one.
This is Harry, our part-timer and piano tuner. He's skilled, but a bit curt.
The manager said, shrugging. I couldn't help but retort. I'm always polite to customers.
I know, but you need to be more affable. Besides, you're not very open-hearted.
His description of me as a wary animal made me even more annoyed. I thought I was open-hearted towards you.
You need to open up to others too, not just me. In any case, Alice, if you have any problems with the piano, you should rely on him. He may be a part-timer, but he's an excellent technician.
I wish he wouldn't raise the bar so high. I'd be the one hurt if I didn't live up to the expectations. Unable to voice my concerns, I vaguely nodded in agreement to escape the situation.
Harry, can we talk about your shift the day after tomorrow?
The day after, Alice came to me immediately after the morning assembly. Sure. What's up?
It's about your work location the day after tomorrow.
Do you need help at multiple stores?
I want you to come to a concert with me.
As she said this, she handed me a flyer for a concert at a hall in the neighboring city. The performer was well known to anyone who had ever touched a piano. I've been to listen a few times myself. Is this a job?
Yes, we need to tune the piano before the concert rehearsal. Our company has a contract with him.
I see. But why me? You're a piano tuner too, right?
But Oliver praised you highly. I thought it might be good for you to gain experience in a professional setting.
Oliver was the manager's name. Experience, huh? I don't have any plans to step up my game, but I guess there's a reason for everything. But even if I'm just a part-timer, I'm still part of the company. If it's their policy to provide some level of experience, I guess I have no choice but to comply. Either way, I don't have reason to refuse. I'm not thrilled about going to the concert hall, but if it's work, I have no choice. I nodded, making sure not to show my reluctance. On the day of the event, I followed Alice across the hall, bustling with staff members, onto the stage.
Good to see you, Mark. I'm Alice from Joseph's Music Store. Hey, Alice, looking forward to working with you today.
The concert's performer, a pianist named Mark, exchanged greetings with Alice. They seemed to know each other. As Alice started to work immediately, Mark seemed troubled.
Listen, Alice, this one has been acting up recently. Maybe it's nervous. Just because we changed the venue, it's like this.
He said this while stroking the grand piano. And indeed, the piano's tone had quite a personality. The condition of the keys wasn't bad. Yet, each note, like a butterfly dancing in the wild, seemed to change direction. I wondered why a piano, especially Mark's, which was treated normally, would become like this. Alice was absorbed in her work, grimacing.
How is it now?
Alice stepped away from the piano, wiping her sweat. Mark laid his hands on the keyboard and slid his fingers. We all thought the favorite melody would fill the hall, but his hand stopped after about 3 bars. Said Mark. Alice drooped her shoulders. Her tuning was impeccable. The note regulation was achieved, yet the core of the notes still seemed scattered.
Sorry, could you give me a little more time? No, you've done well, Alice. I'll adjust the rest during the rehearsal.
Alice, I whispered in Alice's ear, unable to bear it any longer. What if we adjusted to a brighter sound?
A brighter sound?
Then the direction of the sound. Wait a moment. Alice pulled me by the arm toward Mark.
Excuse me, could you give me just a little more time? If it's not good this time, we won't charge for the tuning. Well, if you say that much. Thank you very much.
Alice bowed her head and put me in front of the piano. She excused herself to Mark by saying that she was going to assist me, then whispered to me.
Try it a little.
Me.
I'll take responsibility.
She handed me the tuning tool, and I reluctantly touched the piano. When I actually touched the keys, I felt a sense of discomfort. The sound that rang out was higher and bigger than I had expected when I pressed. When Mark said, "It's nervous," it didn't seem to be entirely wrong. I concentrated solely on my fingertips and ears and faced the piano. I didn't know how much time had passed, but I was satisfied with the finish. At the end, I said in a small voice, "You're fine. Your tone is the best in the world. I'm done." When I turned around, Alice and Mark were staring at me blankly. Alice had completely stepped away from the piano. I was supposed to be assisting Alice in tuning the piano, but was that okay?
Excuse me.
Mark sat down in front of the piano.
You have a strong spirit. I couldn't talk to you.
Alice said this to me just as a beautiful melody sang out from the piano. Thank goodness. It seemed that the piano's mood had been mended. Mark, who was playing the piano, and Alice, who was standing next to him, both had their eyes wide open, listening to the music. I too was immersed in Mark's performance for a while. After finishing one song in its entirety, Mark stood up, grabbed my hand, and shook it up and down.
You're amazing. Thank you for fixing it.
I'm glad you're satisfied. Mark happily played a second song and immediately went into rehearsal. We let out a sigh of relief and stepped down from the stage. Sitting on a bench in the lobby before the audience arrived, I watched the rehearsal on a monitor that had been set up. I was supposed to go back to the store after this, but Mark asked me to stay and listen, and I ended up having a seat arranged for me at the last minute. Alice bought 2 Cokes from the vending machine and handed me one. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Alice took a seat next to me and took a sip of her Coke. Somehow, even a Coke in her hand looked like an ad. Alice noticed my gaze and returned it.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm just a part-timer at Joseph's Music Store.
Not that. You know what I'm trying to say, don't you?
Alice pointed to the piano on the monitor.
Your tuning skills aren't ordinary, Harry. It's hard to believe you're just a part-timer at a music store.
It was just a coincidence that I got along well with that piano.
That's not possible.
Harry,
I heard my name called from behind. I regretted being here as soon as I turned around.
really, Harry?
George, an old classmate from my student days, was standing there, his hand on a cart stacked with cardboard boxes.
It's been a while. You're still playing the piano since you're here.
No, I'm doing a different job.
A different job.
George, noticing my tuning bag, gave a nasty grin.
That makes sense. There's no way a loser like you who exposed such shame would still be playing the piano.
What are you doing, George? I ignored his condescending remark and changed the subject. George patted the cardboard box.
I'm preparing for the opening. I'm with the same agency as Mark. Today, I was handing out pamphlets at the reception. Look, I'm getting famous, so I have to interact with fans. Being popular is busy.
I see.
Well, I'm going now. Are you going to listen to Mark's performance?
Well,
Then, be sure to be aware of your own level. You're weak to pressure.
George left a sarcastic remark disguised as advice and left. Alice, who was next to me, seemed unsure of what to say to me. He's my classmate from music college.
You were at a music university.
There are plenty of people who can get into a music university. You heard, didn't you? Who am I? I'm really nobody. But I majored in piano at the music university. That's why I have a good ear. That's all.
I see.
I didn't feel like talking anymore, so I fell silent. Alice didn't try to ask any further questions, and we only heard the sound of the piano over the speakers.
Oliver said you don't open your heart to people,
Alice murmured softly,
but you open your heart to the piano.
me opening my heart to the piano. Is that how it looked? But I don't play the piano anymore. Yet, the fact that I'm still involved in work related to piano, no, I don't even want to think about it. However, her words just now were stuck in my ears. Until the rehearsal was over, my mind was somewhere else. Our music store, having successfully completed its expansion, decided to hold an event in celebration of the grand reopening. We invited the pianist we had a contract with and held a concert in a nearby hall. The piano used for the actual performance was up for sale. The entire event was Mark's idea. It seemed like a big gamble, but the pre-event publicity was phenomenal. Whether people were interested in the piano or the performer was unclear, but the seats were sold out long before the day of the event. I was also bustling around the hall as part of the preparation staff. Naturally, the tuning of the piano for the performance was entrusted to me. All right, this should do it. I wiped the perfectly tuned piano one last time with a cloth. I'd be happy if even one person would want you. I wonder how people would look at me if they saw me talking to a piano like this. But Alice's words
You open your heart to the piano.
were still with me. Indeed, the time I spent facing the piano felt good. Even though I no longer play it, my feelings of wanting someone to know the good aspects of the piano haven't changed. So, maybe her words were not wrong after all. The rehearsal was over, and all the guests had entered the hall. Unfortunately, it was raining heavily outside, but the hall was almost full regardless. As a member of the preparation staff, I was waiting backstage in case of any unexpected issues with the piano during the performance. It was a blessing to be able to listen to the pianist's performances from the best seat. The starting buzzer for the performance would soon ring. I glanced down at my wristwatch, and at that moment my vision was engulfed in darkness. No matter where I looked, everything was pitch black. The murmuring from the audience confirmed that it wasn't just me who was experiencing this. Staff members started rushing around the hall, lighting their way with flashlights and smartphone screens.
We would like to inform everyone in the audience that the hall is currently experiencing a power outage due to nearby lightning. Please wait a while until power is restored.
A staff member called out to the audience. It was a power outage, a tough situation, but I figured the backup power would be up and running in no more than 5 minutes. As the emergency lights glowed green, everyone waited for the power to come back, but the power did not return. It had already been 20 minutes since the power went out, causing a sense of unease among the staff.
Is the power back yet?
No, the backup power doesn't seem to be working for some reason.
We need to make another announcement.
The staff was reporting updates to each other. However, some audience members were beginning to grow impatient.
Hey, isn't the power back yet?
How much longer do we have to wait? I'm going home.
Angry voices were heard at the stage and the hall staff. Some people even started leaving their seats and heading for the lobby. There was still no sign of the power coming back.
This is bad. Maybe we should start. But to have them perform under these conditions.
I overheard Alice and Mark's conversation. The level of the pianists we had invited was such that they could perform even in a power outage. That is, even if they played with their eyes closed. But the problem was not there. The issue was about using the pianists we had invited for the event to calm the audience. We didn't want to offend them, who had been favoring us until now. But if we didn't do anything, the entire concert would be a disaster.
Harry,
Mr. Oliver called my name with a strained voice. I tensed up, understanding what he wanted to say. He wanted me to perform. That's impossible. I haven't. For years.
but you have been listening, haven't you?
That eyes. Mr. Oliver knew why I had stopped playing the piano. Even though he had never urged me to return to playing once, why in such a situation?
I thought you would stand on the stage again someday. That's why I didn't say anything until today.
But in such a situation,
I thought it was a chance.
a chance.
Right now, the stage is completely dark. No one will know it's you, and no one will think it's you. Because of the power outage, no one is expecting a perfect performance. Even if a child played, they would be satisfied.
I see. Mr. Oliver was lowering the hurdle so that I could gather my courage.
Harry,
Alice tapped my shoulder.
actually, I asked Mr. Oliver, and I've heard your performance before. Just once. The one you played at the competition when you were in high school.
That one.
I love that song. Could you play it for me?
Gently pushed by her light-hearted tone, I found myself moving towards the piano. The murmurs from the audience were drowned out by Alice's voice escorting me.
You had a nice arrangement in the first climax, didn't you? That was amazing.
That's a child's arrangement.
Really? I was fascinated by it.
Alice sat on a chair and opened the lid of the piano keys. It seemed she was planning to listen to my performance next to me. Right? I'm playing for Alice now. There are no other audience members in this space. Thinking like this, my fingers naturally started sliding. Instantly, all sounds other than the piano disappeared from the hall. There are no audience members. It's just me and Alice. The familiar classic piece that I've played so many times. My fingers, arms, and feet remember it even after all these years. I love this phrase. I have to meet Alice's request and arrange it. This is a bit of a tricky score, but it's a very beautiful part. The structure of the song runs through my head one after another. Memories of enjoyable times resurface. The piano complements my playing despite the years of rust. Thank you. You're really a wonderful piano. Just a little bit more. Hang in there with me. I surrender myself to the piano, drifting in the sea of sound. How comfortable. I want to soak in it more. I regretfully play the final phrase and lift my hand from the keys. At that moment, a blinding light hits me. I reflexively close my eyes, and when I squint them open, thunderous applause fills the room. What's going on? What was I doing just now? There was a power outage, and I was playing the piano. And now the power has been restored. Oh, no. I hastily stood up and ran straight to the stage exit. But my feet suddenly stopped.
Harry,
Mr. Oliver looked worried, and Alice was catching up from behind. I turned my back to the two of them and faced the audience. Then I bowed to them and finally slipped off the stage.
Thank you so much for today.
After my performance, it seemed that the concert had started without any problems. I was in a daze until I finished cleaning up and was dragged out by Alice and Oliver. I regained my composure in the dressing room, drinking tea and hydrating my parched throat.
The concert was incredible too, wasn't it? Everyone was asking who the disguised pianist in the dark was. We got a lot of inquiries, but we kept you a secret, Harry. Or should we have told them?
No way. I don't want to be in the spotlight.
Yes, I thought you'd feel that way. But your performance today was really wonderful.
Thanks to you, Alice. I was able to perform because you were listening to me by my side.
I didn't do anything. On the contrary, I dragged you out when you didn't want to be.
Even so, I was able to play because you made me forget about the audience. Can I tell you something? I talked about my past, how I ended up as I am now. I had been playing the piano since kindergarten, and I never got tired of it, even when I was in high school. By the time I entered music college, I was already a well-known student pianist in the industry. I also obtained my piano tuner's license around this time. I wanted to be able to tune the piano I was playing myself. When I first entered the music college, I won first place in every competition I entered, as if I had no rivals. Some even called me a genius pianist. While I was happy to receive high evaluations, I was most excited to see the reactions of the people who listened to my piano. However, as I was about to graduate from music college, a high wall stood in my way. That was George. He was a classmate at the same college, and we knew each other. When I happened to hear him play at a competition, I got goosebumps. His playing was wild and bold, yet the contrast with his delicate rhythm was addictive. He had been unknown until then, but he began to show his potential as a late bloomer. He also had a piano tuner's license, and his winning rate in competitions was as good as mine, and we were often compared. And when we competed in the same competition, George won first place brilliantly. On the other hand, I was not second, but 10th. In the first competition we competed in together, I was shown the difference in power. I was shaken and became more concerned with my ranking than the joy of playing the piano. The results of competitions are known to everyone in the college in an instant. It was impossible not to care, and I lost the purpose of enjoying playing the piano. Naturally, my piano was not accepted, and I became afraid of performing in front of people. Even though I could play happily in practice, when people watched me, my performance was terrible. I made unbelievable mistakes, and one day, I got heckled during a performance. Since then, performing in front of people became a complete trauma, and I became afraid not only of playing the piano, but also of being in the spotlight. Naturally, my evaluation of not being able to play the piano fell to the ground. I was often treated coldly by people who I thought were my friends. Apparently, our bond was based on my fame. Not all people are like that, but I don't know what people think of me. Even if they were smiling on the surface, I was paranoid that they might have feelings of contempt for me. As a result, I was afraid of becoming close to people and tried not to deepen my relationships as much as possible.
I see. I'm sorry for making you tell such a sad story.
Alice looks at after hearing my story. No, I'm sorry for telling you such a personal story.
Why do you apologize? I'm glad you told me. It's proof that you've opened up your heart to me a little, isn't it?
That's, as Alice said, talking about my trauma must me not want her to know about it. But I don't mind if she knows. She made me play the piano again.
The reason you were able to play earlier is because you didn't know how others saw you, right? That means you need to fight with yourself to be able to play in the future, doesn't it?
A fight with myself.
After all, the reaction of the audience was your biggest pleasure, right? Then you can't ignore the existence of the audience.
When she said that, it hit me. Indeed, even though I'm afraid of the audience's gaze and can't play, what I want is their reaction. So what I should fight against is not the audience who heckled me, but myself.
You know, I have a proposal.
Alice showed me a video on her smartphone. The screen was dark, and I recognized it as my performance from earlier.
Today's concert was okay to record, right? Mark was here, and he said he had recorded this video. And if you give him permission, he'd like to post it on social media.
What's the purpose? I wondered if there is a demand for a performance by an unknown pianist, let alone a performance in the dark.
Of course, I want a lot of people to hear this wonderful performance. Of course, I won't mention your name, and I'll hide your face. So I want you to see the ratings of the posted video and know the reaction of the people who listen to it, to know how many people your performance can move.
Do you think it will go that well?
Yes, I guarantee it.
As she said, the video caused a huge reaction. Magic in the Dark during a hiccup, posted with a ton of praise in the comments.
Do you believe now that your piano can entertain people?
Alice showed me the comments as if they were her own achievement. She added that there would also be interviews about this video, and I couldn't help but nod, taken aback. And as I continued to be interviewed, the more I thought back to that day, the more I wanted to try playing the piano again. When I discussed this with Alice, she happily proposed several opportunities for me to perform. Starting with a small local concert, I was able to gradually get used to performing in front of people through various connections. I found each concert where I could directly feel the audience's reactions enjoyable and eagerly participated in one after another. Before I knew it, it had become common knowledge that I was the pianist who performed in the dark, and the name Pianist Harry had become well known. During this time, I was offered a guest appearance at a concert hosted by Mark. I owe him a lot, and I always feel like I'm in his debt. After finishing the rehearsal and chatting with Alice in the lobby, George naturally came to greet us. It was because of him that I had distanced myself from playing, but the problem was my lack of skill. His words might be harsh, but I can't hate him, so I responded while trying not to remember my trauma too much.
Looks like you're performing today.
Yeah, thanks to Mark. Are you performing today, George?
I'm behind the scenes today. Speaking of, Harry, you're playing at a concert sponsored by Joseph Instruments soon. If you'd asked me, I could have performed too.
Oh, right.
Alice, who cut into George's sales talk, put her palms together as if she had remembered something.
I finally figured it out. When Mark's piano was out of tune, it was because of you.
What? What do you mean?
What's going on?
Apparently, he pushed his way in while Mark's other piano tuner was working, saying he was from the same office and would tune it himself. He seems to have some status in the office, so no one could speak up. According to the person who was on the scene, it seems he was tuning the piano to suit his own playing style.
No wonder the sound was so off. George's and Mark's playing styles are completely different. Why would you do such a thing?
Probably trying to transition to being a piano tuner before his declining skills became apparent. This is not just my conjecture, but also based on information from people in the office.
It seems that Alice hit the nail on the head.
Thanks to you, I was almost embarrassed in front of Mark. I'm really glad Harry was there, but if this continues, our credibility could be compromised. So I've reported it to the office. Also, you have a bad reputation among the office girls. You know, everyone makes a disgusted face when they talk about you. You forcefully invite them on dates, touch them, and speak ill of Mark behind his back. I've reported this too.
That's...
George's face turned pale. That might be why he's working behind the scenes today.
You might have been talented at one point, but it seems like you let your talent get to your head. Why not start from scratch? I recommend working part-time at a music store.
In the end, George's contract was not renewed, and he couldn't find a new affiliation due to the rumors spreading in the small industry. Whether it was due to Alice's advice or not, I heard he was living by working part-time at another music store. And as for me, I'm still at Joseph Instruments. I became a staff member as a piano tuner at Joseph Instruments and decided to wear two hats, occasionally holding concerts.
Don't you want to go all in as a pianist?
I told Alice, who looked worried. There's also the fact that I play to let you hear. So I have no intention of quitting Joseph Instruments. Realizing what I had just said by the reaction of Alice, who turned red at that time, that's not what I meant. Of course, I want other customers to listen as well, but it's nice to have Alice. I mean, you, who helped me overcome my trauma. No matter what I say, it's going to sound like a pickup line, so I decided to ask her out. And I was accepted quite easily and ended up getting married in less than a year.
You finally opened up your heart not only to the piano, but also to me.
Seeing her happy smile, I realized that playing the piano is not about competing in skill, but about making people smile. It took some time to realize this obvious fact, but from now on, I want to cherish both my feelings and the piano.